To me, the most important thing, are the people that, to me, I got to play with that represented Kansas City.
Mm-hmm.
Very lucky to get to work with Jay McShann and
yeah.
do some touring.
Yeah.
And because he embodied the sound of Kansas City.
He's a link back to that 30s.
Yeah, he's the real deal, and as well as Claude Fiddler Williams.
Because Claude played guitar with Benny Moten, right? He wasn't playing...
Well, no, Claude played guitar with Count Basie.
With Count Basie.
After Benny Moten passed away, then, Claude was the guitarist with Basie. Now, where things got a little bumpy is that when John Hammond, the great record producer and promoter and discoverer of talent,
impresario,
discovered Billie Holiday, discovered Bob Dylan, discovered Charlie Christian, discovered Count Basie, the list goes on. And probably, in my opinion, the most important non-musician figure in American popular music, or at least jazz. You know? And so anyway, so Claude was playing with Basie, and John Hammond liked his guitar playing. Mm-hmm. Fine guitarist. But of course, Claude loved that fiddle. Mm-hmm. And when he played the fiddle, it wasn't sweet.
Right.
Sweet, pretty sound. It was like, like he really dug in,
Yeah.
And so some people didn't like Claude's sound.
Right.
I'll just put it frankly that it was very raw compared to the traditional violin playing that you think of.
Even the Western swing guys were sweeter, the kind of Bob Wills sort
Probably,
of stuff.
And of course, Stephen Grappelli would be the epitome of the guy that had beautiful tone, but anyway, so John did not like the fact that Claude would pick up the violin.
Okay.
He didn't like the violin playing.
Right.
Which is ironic because Claude was incredible, but I understand where. So when he discovered the Basie band, came to Kansas City, went to the Reno Club, heard the band in person. He had first heard them on the radio, a broadcast that made it to Chicago.
Right. WHB probably.
No, it was like an experimental radio station.
Before that.
Yeah, it was sort of experimental. So anyway, so then when John Hammond took the band to Chicago to perform somewhere, they realized, most of the guys in the band cannot read. This could be a problem when they have to back up all these shows. So they brought in some ringers to help that out, because the guys in the band had great ears. They could pick up on things quick, And then that was the fateful John Hammond recommended that Basie fire Claude and hire Freddie Green. And of course, Freddie Green was a quintessential, rhythm guitar player.
Right.
And so that was a hard thing, because I guess Basie was very good friends with Claude. They were tight. Mm-hmm. And but that's what happened.
And so you got to play with Claude.
I got to play with Claude.
Were you doing Plaza 3 gigs with him? What else?
Yes, Plaza 3. I did some travel with him.
Yeah.
With Bob Bowman, we did some traveling around the country, and so yeah, those two, and of course, aforementioned Marilyn Maye, who once again the Kansas City legend. So I guess my point is that I take great pride in being from Kansas City.
Right.
I take great pride in that, because there's something about this that's magical. Mm-hmm. I understand Pendergast is long gone.
Right.
We don't have the same dynamics that during Prohibition that we had back then. But I think the best compliment I ever got was from the great jazz drummer Louis Nash. Mm-hmm. I worked at Birdland with Karrin, and got a chance to play with Louis Nash for a week, which was exciting for me. And we got done with the first set, and he smiled. He looked at me, he smiled, and he said, "Man, I can tell you're from Kansas City." He gave me a big smile, and I thought, that's the best compliment I've ever gotten, because I want to sound like I'm from Kansas City. I want to be part of this legacy.
Right.
And so when I got back after the dry jack, the high-powered fusion stuff, going to those gigs and working with Kansas City legends like Herman Bell and Carmel Jones, who played with Horace Silver, heavyweight, and Julie Turner, it's just, so I started to really kind of get into all of that.
Yeah.
Get into playing like Freddie Green, play rhythm guitar and love it, not just be bored by it. Actually love it.
Oh yeah.
And I started listening to Charlie Christian and with Benny Goodman and so I really feel an identity with the Southwest sound, not just Kansas City, but that whole, I love Western swing.
Yeah.
I love that for the same reasons, and so to get that compliment from Lewis Nash was like, okay, that's exactly, I'm doing the right thing. 'Cause
Right.
we've got plenty of people playing like everybody else.
Right.
We've got plenty of people copying Kurt Rosenwinkel. Got plenty of that. But not maybe a lot of people thinking about Kansas City and what that's about, and so I that's something I take personally, that I really, and the other thing I'd make an observation is that when I was at school at Miami, I did some of those kind of gigs. I did just about every kind of gig you can do while I was going to school, and one of them was playing like a bar mitzvah or country club gig with the band, and it was so cut and dried. It was like their idea was like East Coast mentality, where you play one song after another, no soloing. You play Sunny Side of the Street. The drummer holds up the finger for the next key, and you go into the next song. Just this long medley, and they didn't want to hear anything from me. I was the guitar player. I was just there to play
chords.
Proud Mary.
Okay.
But no, they didn't want to hear me. They turn your amp off. Turn your amp off. I know Sunny Side of the Street. No, turn your amp off.
Really?
Yes. I mean, it was humiliating.
Oh my gosh.
And then we'd get to finally to where we had to play Proud Mary, and louder, play it, play as loud as you can. He was like, and I thought, man, if I had to do this for the rest of my life, I mean, it's not going to be a pretty sight, It's not going to be good.
It's not worth it.
Alcoholic, laying in the gutter somewhere. Anyway, so I come back to Kansas City after Dry Jack, and it was an adjustment, obviously, going from this high-powered stuff to Little Brown Jug by Glenn Miller. It was an adjustment. But I started playing those kind of gigs, the country clubs, and I thought, wait a second, why is this not terrible?
Right.
I mean, we're playing music in the beginning that was more background music.
Right.
But we're playing nice tunes.
Right. And
Deep
taking
Purple,
solos.
taking solos. Don't get too crazy. Stay within the gig, play the gig. But, Herman and Carmel and Julie, Mike Perriman on drums, that's not going to swing no matter what, right? It's going to swing. You can't help it.
Right.
And so
It's going to feel good.
I'd play those gigs and I go, damn it, why is this so much better than my experience in Miami? And that's when I realized that the things that happened in Kansas City, Tom Pendergast, the Wide Open Town, the music that was got translated not just to the African American community, but think about this, Fairyland Park, which was the big amusement park before Worlds of Fun.
Right.
75th and Prospect is about where the park was. And Fairyland Park did not become integrated till the mid-60s.
Right.
So
I've seen people post that they couldn't go in there. Tyrone Clark
right.
posted
So
his memory of that place was he couldn't go as
right. But you have to understand that separation was a one-way street, because when Benny Moten was alive and hired Count Basie to become like this unique band with two piano players, they had two grand pianos that they would play, and because he loved Basie, he loved what Basie could bring to the table, and they had a steady gig at Fairyland Park in the summertime, playing in the dance pavilion to all exclusively white audiences, because no one else. I mean, if you were black, you weren't allowed to be there unless you were working there, and so I thought to myself, then I saw this article in Downbeat magazine from the 30s. John Hammond wrote about Kansas City. And he made a pilgrimage to Kansas City to find the Basie band. But he also wrote this article about what else was going on in Kansas City.
A lot.
And he said, you have to understand that it's not just the musical community that's really happening, but the Kansas City has one of the most discerning jazz audiences in the world.
Right.
White or black.
Right.
Because what was happening was, John Hammond would say, well, you like you like Fats Waller, don't you? Oh yeah, we love Fats Waller. When he comes through town, we love him. But his rhythm section's square compared to what we have in Kansas City. And that was true.
Right.
It was true. We had a more modern, streamlined rhythm going. That's kind of where the walking bass kind of took off. And so when I read that about him bragging about the Kansas City audience, I thought, well, it's 1980, you know, I'm in my, you know, I'm 30, 29, I'm not sure. I'm you know, but I'm young.
Right.
And I'm playing for people twice my age.
Right. They heard that stuff.
They heard that stuff. Yeah. They have memories of that. And
Right.
that's part of why Kansas City has something, the reverberations are felt to this day.
Yeah.
You know, to this day, because all I am is I'm just like another branch on the Carmel Jones Herman Bell tree that, you know, that influenced me greatly. So I'm just another branch in terms of like bringing that identity and that sound. And that's what I love about what's happening here at the Black Dolphin and the Green Lady, is that organic, self-produced, original Kansas City jazz is being encouraged on a daily basis.
Right.
And I think that's fantastic.
Right.
And thanks, John Scott.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rod.
Thank you.
Yeah, man.
All right.
Yeah. That was good stuff. That was a good 10 minutes or however long that was.
I think it was.
That was good though. I think that was some of my favorite stuff.
Yeah, I guess when you just start shooting from the hip.